In today's video, I'm going to be having a look at the US economy and the jobs reporting that we've seen from last night. I'm also going to be looking at Microsoft and some of the gaming news that they've had recently. In addition to all that, I'm going to give you a bit of an idea on what's happening with the NASDAQ. Hello and welcome to another acysecurities market update. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be a host through today's trading journey. Now, the first thing for us to have a look at today is really about the US jobs claims that we've seen overnight. There was a forecast for 1.3 million jobless claims to come in, which would have added to the curve. Now, what we've seen over the last couple of weeks or even the last couple of months, since we saw those abysmal figures earlier on in the year, that job claims have been decreasing. And the curve is quite nice to look at if you wanted to have a look at it yourselves later. But unfortunately, we have seen the first rise in a number of weeks with more than 1.4 million claims come in. So there isn't that much difference in what's going on. It's only a couple of 100,000 maybe above, but regardless of this factor, it is starting to signify that there are problems in the US economy again. Not that long ago, there was talk about the US economy basically recovering, and over the last couple of weeks, with the addition of coronavirus cases ramping up, we're starting to see talk of people being more concerned about the economic outcomes, and of course, through consumer sentiment reports, we've seen the same thing. Now, looking at it from a corona case point of view, we've now got the US with more than 4 million infections, and that number has just continued to increase across the board and across the globe. The globe has got more than 15 million cases at this point. Now, the big issues that we're really seeing in the US is that we do get mixed signals a lot at the moment. On one side, we have Trump saying that he's not going to shut down the country and that the economy needs to continue running, but then individual states are saying the opposite things. At the same time, you'll have Trump talk about and sort of criticize Dr. Fauci, but then he'll also advocate for some of the measures that Fauci is talking about, such as wearing a mask at all times. So the mixed signals are coming in quite readily. The data numbers tell a different story though, which are basically saying at this point, perhaps the recovery has been short-lived and now we're going to see some more turmoil for the US economy. Now, moving on to some more lighter notes for today, Microsoft. They have had a new gaming release. Many of you might be aware of the console known as the Xbox and a variety of games that they often have to play with them. Overnight, Microsoft and indeed Xbox themselves announced a couple of different new gaming titles that are going to be coming out and a new console that they're expecting to release towards the end of the year. Now, in addition to the 22 different games that they've got coming out, there are going to be 10 Xbox exclusives. Now, really, when we look at the earnings reports of Microsoft, we've seen some really good results throughout the pandemic. The only area where they have had some lapse in profit making has been from their Azure cloud services. But regardless of that, the subscription services that they're actually making on Microsoft has got them with more than 10 million active subscribers. So they are looking at a very positive way forward, and with a new product coming out, it might be somewhere to have a look at for new trades to come up for you in the future. Of course, it might all leave us with options to have a look at how we might consider when we might get in. So these are the ways that I see things going down. When we look at Microsoft and we look at the new console, then we can sort of estimate that when pre-orders are enabled, that means they're likely going to get a cash injection before having to deliver a product, which therefore would in turn mean that they are likely going to get that cash injection, and then they're going to have a stock price rise, even if it is only a little bit, to get to a nice level. Now, not accounting for the stock losses they've had this week, which has been a little bit higher across the NASDAQ all round. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But regardless, I still think there is a good opportunity here for a position, considering they have a new product that is highly regarded, that has good marketing appraisal to it, and it's going to be having exclusive and, of course, a subscription-based gaming driver. So definitely something to keep your eyes on, especially leading up to Christmas when it comes closer to its release at the end of the year. Now, moving on to the NASDAQ. Now, the NASDAQ has had an interesting time in place. They have been in the dot-com bubble once before, and right now there is speculation as to whether or not there is a tech bubble going on. And when you've got a tech-heavy composite like the NASDAQ, then you can see the fears starting to rise. If you were to compare the S&P 500 to the NAS 100, then you will obviously see that there is a very big cliff that looks like it's moving into. Price has just been steaming up a vertical wall over the last couple of months since the pandemic, with the majority of it coming from those tech companies. Now, these days, the NASDAQ is a 45% heavily weighted towards the technology sector. In fact, the top 11 stocks that are trading in the NASDAQ are all technologically based to some degree. So there is some level of weighting that comes on this tech side of things. So people are now starting to ask, is there really a bubble happening, and is it in the tech sector? Well, there's also been some comparisons that are being made, and those comparisons are to what happened in the dot-com bubble when we were seeing a tech bubble emerge. Now, is that the case today? Well, yes and no. In my eyes, there's one very big piece of information, and that is that monetary policy is entirely different. The other side of this is the weighting. So the two pieces of information that really matter the most here are the monetary policy and, of course, how many companies that are tech derived. Back in the dot-com bubble, we were seeing numbers in the 60% range of the NASDAQ being heavyweight on the tech sector. These days it's about 45. Now, looking at the monetary policy, back in the dot-com bubble, we were looking at an area of time or an area in the markets where we were seeing not the tightening of fiscal policy. So we were seeing interest rates rise. Nowadays, we're seeing the opposite. We have loose monetary policy, we have low interest rates, and we have an unfathomable amount of stimulus. What does this all mean at the end of the day? Well, you can compare some sections between the dot-com bubble and now, and you could say that there potentially is some level of a bubble occurring in the NASDAQ. But the reality in the situation to me, with the monetary policy and of course the stimulus that's going in and a new world of speculative trading that's going on, then I would be looking at a completely different animal if I had to say so myself. So looking forward, what's the result going to be? At this point, I think it's too early to tell, but there are certainly signals that are saying that perhaps we should all be a little bit more guarded with our back pocket. Anyways, that's really all I have on today's video. We are going to have a look at the news ahead of today. There's not a lot. There's a lot of double ups today. We have still a Japan bank holiday occurring. We have pound retail sales. And then we have a number of different states. We have Germany and France from the EU section giving out flash PMI and services PMI figures. We also have the UK delivering the same thing, and the US also offering their same version of the flash PMIs that are going ahead. So that's all there is for today. I hope you have enjoyed this week's videos, and of course you've had a good trading week yourself. If there's anything from my videos, webinars, or any other appearances that you've seen me in, please, that you want to get in contact with me about, please feel free to shoot me an email at talktoal@acy.com. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video so you get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.